Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a brand new day. It is today, the 11th day of April 2022. It's good to have you with us. I'm Marissa Boyce. I am your host this morning of Men on Monday. And with me this morning, I have Minister Clair Brown, Pastor Edison Bynoe, Bishop Mark, the gentlemen, the team, all making up Men on Monday. And let me offer apologies for not being able to share our show last week. However, we are here live today and we are continuing our series on compatibility and chemistry. What is it? Why is it necessary? And, just what does it mean for your relationship and future and potential relationships? But first, let's bring greetings from the gentlemen. Good morning, gentlemen. I hope you had a great weekend.
Yes, I'm
Hey,
first.
what's up?
Yes.
Go ahead, Sinclair. Jump right.
Oh, yes. I had a wonderful week, wonderful weekend. Yes, had a good time at Bushy Park, Nazarene. Yes, Bushy Park, Nazarene. Yes, this morning. So yeah. So blessings to all. Blessings in the name of Jesus. And yes, I'm recovering more and more. So I thank the Lord for that. Amen and amen.
Glad to hear Sinclair. My weekend was pretty good. Pretty quiet, but decent. So I would say I had a good weekend. And good morning, everybody. Welcome to the show, Men on Monday. Hope that you are blessed and that there are things that are said that will help you to become better, both in your relationship with God and your relationship with your significant other.
Well, good morning, beautiful Marissa and gentlemen, listeners, viewers. Well, I had a tremendous weekend because I was able to spend the time with my family and also to be with the church family on Sunday, and we had a tremendous and a wonderful time in the presence of the Lord, and I got some rest, so I'm quite good. Thank God for rest.
Rest is productivity. People don't think that, but rest is. So it's good to know that you got
All
some
right.
rest, Bishop.
Yes,
So
please.
you were productive this week. So Bishop, Pastor Edison Bynoe, let us, if we can, recap some of what we covered over the last couple of weeks, looking at compatibility,
All
and
right.
then we'll
Well,
go
I,
from
I, I
there.
I don't know if I can recap because so much information was shared, but we talked about a number of things. But the last thing we were looking at were the combinations of chemistry and compatibility. Yeah. So we talked about the fact that you can have low chemistry, low compatibility, or we talked about having. I think we looked at l- low. No, I don't think we look at low chemistry, high compatibility yet, but we definitely looked at low chemistry, low compatibility, and I think we looked at high chemistry, low compatibility. And so we were looking at the combinations and the implications for relationships, how they affect relationships. And beside that, some relationships are like friendships. They're really not going to necessarily go anywhere. Yeah. And then there's some relationships that seem so right, but they are so wrong. And they're not the kind of relationships that we should get into. But as Minister Sinclair pointed out, in situations where the compatibility might not be quite there, it means that you have to invest a lot of effort into making the relationship work. So we are looking at those two things, how we can achieve intimacy, whether we should go forward, whether we should retreat, what should we do when the chemistry and the compatibility are not in sync. So we got two more to look at, which we'll explore this morning. So we are looking at.
So yes, and it all began here. It all began here where we looked at a couple of weeks ago when we looked at the fact that intimacy begins on different levels: emotional, physical, recreational, intellectual, spiritual, and financial. And it's interesting that you can share more than one of these with a person that you're not in an intimate relationship with. And it's important to know where you stand in any relationship that you share with anyone. So, as Pastor Bynoe was sharing just now, we looked at um, several of these, two of these out of our matrix in our last show. And A relationship devoid of only intimacy, but probably basic conversations, low chemistry, low compatibility. And we said that some of these are generally friendship relationships. And it's interesting if for those of you who are in relationships and looking to be in relationships to look at where you stand on the matrix. So I just shared it with all of our viewers. Good morning again to all of you who are with us. And before we jump right into, I'm going to ask Minister Sinclair to prepare himself. Before we jump right into, I just want to share with you some information for you to take note of. Don't forget to check out our friends over at Healthy Cottage, and also Bishop Edison Bynoe still has his book out. We're waiting on Bishop Mark to present his 2.0, Marriage is Hard Work 2.0, working on that book. I'm sure he's in the background working on that. We're looking forward to having that. But Pastor Edison Bynoe has his book out for all of you to check out on Amazon. 8 Success Factors for a Healthy Lifestyle. Check it out on Amazon. And of course, don't forget to make sure you book your session today with Healthy Cottage. So there you have it. Check out our friends over at Healthy Cottage. Minister Sinclair Brown, good morning to his wife Donna. They'll take care of you there at Healthy Cottage. So, Minister Sinclair Brown, where do we continue this morning?
Oh, yes, we can pull back the chart so we can finish the other two matrix squares. And we can have a look at that, and I would definitely get the ball going. So, it's a chemistry compatibility to matrix. So, we talk about low chemistry, low compatibility. So, that can happen in a relationship after a period of time. But we talk before the relationship, if you find that you don't have a connection, there's nothing about the person that jumps make your butterflies in the stomach or make your hand, your hand sweat or any of those things. To recognize there's nothing on the external that makes you go like. And then there's the compatibility. We have similar intimacies as we mentioned in the other graph, and you can look at the other programs that we went through extensively about that. So that is not something we want to start, and definitely it can happen in many marriages as the years go by. Somebody we find out who we are, and then recognize, oh shoot, I married who I wanted, but not who I needed. The next matrix we looked through was high chemistry, low compatibility, and I'm pulling on the analogy that Bishop Mark had made about two Mondays ago or three on the chemistry being like looking at the car, you like the externals of the car, but the functionality of the car, the rooming on the inside of the car, or the purpose of the vehicle. If we don't have a compatibility, then it can feel good, but it can be also wrong. As I said, the working dumpster fire of relationship. So there's a lot of connections. So maybe we connect through trauma. There's a lot of trauma bonding where people have been through a lot of hurt, and hurt people find hurt people. Yeah. And they have this high chemistry, but compatibility just is not working. You don't have the tools to work with them. So the last two, quickly, low chemistry, high compatibility. This can happen through friendships where people didn't necessarily start out liking each other, but they end up talking and communicating, recognize, oh, shoot, we are so similar on the inside. I get boring in a sense because it's still not a spark, but has a lot of work. Mostly sexual companionship, entire relationship comprised of discussion about Netflix, sweatpants, or frozen meal planning. And what I mean is that there's a lot of superficial conversation. Is you can't get too deep with it. And the last one we look at high chemistry, high compatibility. This is once again, this is not a guarantee. So some people just like the love languages, people think, oh, you have it, let me run with this. However, it does help if you have high chemistry and high compatibility. There's a very sweet spot that you really want to look for before. But if you're not, if your relationship and it's not being met, you can have that to be achieved and how to achieve it.
So, of course, everybody attains to high chemistry, high compatibility. And this, as you said, this is a sweet spot. So, for persons who've been in a relationship and they are not, they passed through that stage and they're saying, you know what, we've settled that where we are right now. Hmm. Let's talk about that.
Hey, Bishop Mark, I thought you would jump in right there. That was a sweet spot for you to jump in. But since you're not there, you know your relationship with your wife is excellent. You got high chemistry and high compatibility. Uh, but you know you do have that area where you have that low chemistry and high compatibility, and Bishop Mark always says this: marriage is hard work. Yeah, and marriage requires a lot of investment. And people don't understand that sometimes the marriage will actually go through transitions. So the marriage is not going to be in the same place. There are going to be different circumstances that will happen. You could have children come along that affect the intimacy of the relationship. You can have conflicts at work, problems at work. You can have other kinds of problems. All these things add up. You can have maturational changes. Your body is going through different changes. Life is moving at a different pace and so on. So then after a while, the other person is changing, you are changing. So you may find that after a while, the chemistry, that spark, that excitement, that enthusiasm about relationship is not really there. But in the other areas of intimacy, you are still very, very intimate. You're still very compatible. You can still carry on good conversation and even deep conversations because you're at the level of friendship. The person is almost like your best friend. It becomes like a brother and sister kind of relationship. Yeah. So sometimes in marriage, you can have a situation where people are living in the house and they are talking, they basically love each other kind of thing, but there's no real spark, no romantic spark in that kind of a way. What it shows is that for that to be maintained, you have to be intentional about it. There are things that you have to do, and you also have to recognize what has caused the chemistry to be different. What has affected the chemistry? We used to be excited, we were very infatuated with each other, we were very affectionate with each other, we were holding hands, as Sinclair would often quote me. We had the explosive sex, everything was good in the bedroom, good on the outside, and then all of a sudden, over time, things started to decline. Yeah. So, what are some of the things that affected that? Some things that can affect it will be things like anger. So we don't understand how to resolve conflict. And so over time, conflict intensified. We didn't know how to deal with it. We remain angry. We hold on to resentment and unforgiveness. And then that begins to affect the chemistry. And then sometimes the communication is not what it used to be. One time we might have talked about everything. We would have shared what we're feeling. We would share what was on our heart, but then eventually the conversation started to get very superficial, very cliche. We'll talk about the weather, we'll talk about ordinary things, but then we stop sharing our dreams, our aspirations, our fears, our hopes, and that kind of thing. So there's a lot that can transpire in a relationship that can affect chemistry. The issue though in relationships is, what do you do? Do you settle for low chemistry and say, well, hey, this is where the relationship is at? There's nothing more that we can do about it. Just accept it, live with it, and and maintain it for the benefit of the children. And then maybe when the children leave home, hey, we don't know what will happen. We just continue as roommates. Or is there a way to revitalize the passion of the relationship? You may not have the high energy to jump on the chandelier and that kind of thing, but at least you can still maintain a degree of excitement. So you can rebuild. You can rebuild. The issue is how do you rebuild? So I can stop here and let.
You were
And
doing quite
maybe if
well.
people want to rebuild, go ahead, Bishop.
Right. Yeah, that's very important. What you just said, dear Lady Marissa. You know, there's a saying that when you're at the top, you have to work to maintain that top position. And so when we have the high chemistry and the high compatibility, um, you still can't relax and say, well, from all the points, it seems that we are good, so we can just relax. And I find that is where a lot of relationships, marriages get into trouble because we are so high in chemistry and high in compatibility that we start to believe that, hey, we are good, so we don't have to do what we used to do before. We don't have to be dating anymore. We don't have to have these deep conversations. We don't have any more of those times where I'm running you through the house trying to get you to notice me, to add some excitement to what we want to do and all of that. And the nice neck the J's and try to, well, me, I can't really show much muscles. I just got hands. But the point I'm making is that when you have that quote unquote close to perfect high chemistry, although you already established 100% of both of those really could be very negative. You have to make every effort to maintain that, because sometimes you rest on your laurels. You sit down, you say, well, we are good. I don't have to. My wife know me, I know her, and people say, well, we don't have to date anymore because we have arrived. I think that the work aspect of it has to be there. You have to do like anything else the car I talk about. You have to do maintenance. And let me tell you something. When you have a top quality vehicle, let us stay with that. You have a top quality vehicle. The maintenance of it costs you a lot more, right? If you got a particular brand that is cheap, then you got to maintain the cost is a lot less. But you got up in the high level Mercedes and BMW and so on, you realize that they're very high maintenance. So if you are blessed to have the high chemistry and the high compatibility, then you have to work on the maintenance. And that maintenance means you still have to do the things that got you there. You still have to, many times I've been, as I told you, I'm married, well, this year I'm 29 years, and me and my wife still talk. We quarrel, but we talk, we discuss stuff. We don't talk at each other. We don't shout over at each other. I don't point fingers at my wife, nothing like that. But we have to work on it, because there are things that she's going to not like about me up to now. Because she thinks that I get very, she said, perfectionist and so on. But I want to see things done in a certain way. And so sometimes I get a little frustrated and so on. But over the years, we always talk about everything and don't care what we argue about. We never stop doing what we normally do. That is, put the breakfast there, how we sleep in the bed, the which room. We never have had that problem because we recognize. And the good thing about being a Christian and knowing the Lord is that a lot of times you have to get your life right with the Lord. So in order to get your relationship right with God, you have to have your relationship right with those people who surround you and so on. So I think what needs to be said is that you have to do your maintenance. You have to make sure, even although you have this high level of the two things working together, it doesn't mean that everything will go well either. Because science people think that because you have these particular perfect scenarios that it can work itself out. Your car is as beautiful as it is, cannot operate unless you do the necessary things to do that. Even to get the car to go somewhere, you have to focus on that road and be able to drive well. So you have to learn how to drive your relationship well, how to manage it, when to turn left and right to get where you want to get. And that is what I would encourage people to understand. Whichever position you're at, you have to work. You have to do maintenance. And when something is of a greater value, higher maintenance.
Bishop, I want to jump in there too, because using the analogy of the car, when the car get a little problem, the chemistry is not there. Sometimes we feel that we got to throw away the car. Yeah,
Correct.
because people begin to question and to wonder, man, do I need to
Well,
get out of this marriage? This marriage dead. We don't love each other anymore. That sort of thing. But really and truly, as Bishop Mark has said, marriage is hard work. You got to be willing to make the investment. If you invest, if you plant seed, then eventually you're going to get a great harvest. But you got to be willing to invest the effort. If you take the time to recognize, hey, I got a good vehicle, and all I need to do is to take it to the mechanic, let the mechanic do some body work on it, let the mechanic do some maintenance on it, and then the car can be back in operation. Therefore, when your relationship reaches a point of low chemistry, don't feel that it's hopeless. Don't feel that the marriage is over. Yeah. there can be things that can be done to revitalize the marriage, to get the excitement back in the marriage. And as Lady Marissa said, if you are willing to work on it, that's the key. You gotta be willing to work on it. And as Bishop Mark would have mentioned, you gotta invite God into the process. If you invite God into it and allow God to work on you, and then allow God to work on the other person, then there is likely possibility that you will be able to rekindle the flames, and you know, when a fire is starting to go out, you can let it go out. But at the same time, if you need that fire, you can say, look, man, I'm not going to let this fire go out. I'm going to put some more wood on the fire. I'm going to stir up the flames, and then we can potentially get back the chemistry, and chemistry won't be the same dynamic. You know, it won't take on the same flair that you used to have. You might not have all the high energy to go all the different places that you used to do and do some of the things that you used to do, that kind of thing. The chemistry could be a little different, but it can still be good chemistry. It can still be wonderful chemistry. You can still enjoy intimacy. You can still enjoy all the different aspects of the relationship. You can still have fun in the relationship. So it doesn't have to get boring and mundane and that sort of thing. It can be revitalized to be something good and healthy. And I see Minister Sinclair smiling. So yeah.
Yeah, just my brain works overtime. Sorry. Um, you said something quite interesting there, and I'm going to pull on something Bishop Murray said. Because let me toss our Christianity in here. Because many times, because we are Christian, we love the Lord, and we want to do right by the Lord, is why many people stay in the marriage. Because you come to a place where we are functioning at a high level, we are operating at a high level, and and well, sorry, not a high level. We are in that getting along. We know each other. Um, I know she likes coffee at 6 o'clock. I know he likes toast and eggs. We know each other pulses. We know each other well. But as far as yes, we don't have that high level of chemistry. There's not an excitement, but we are functional. And we've had a conversation. We recognize, you know what, we have a low compatibility on both ends. So in many times, because we love the Lord, and we, and we want to be righteous. There are many people that will say, you know what, this is it. You understand? This is it. So you know what I mean? Like, it's why people stay jobs. It's like they know the job they have. Why leave that job, and then the possibility of going to a job they don't know. So the Christianity actually plays a part in all of this too. Because yes, the Lord, we should. And if that was an ideal situation, as I tell people, I wouldn't have a job. Become a job, my people are Clair. I mean, are Christian. My clients are Christian. So it means that people go pray, lay prostrate for the Lord. Holy Spirit, boom, they change. They listen to what Holy Spirit says. Change your personality. Stop shouting. Stop screaming. Whatever it is that is the issue. But for the most part, we are who we are, and we don't like to change. You know what I mean? It sounds difficult. I mean, it sounds like, oh, we all need to do this and we need to do this at 50-50. But for the most part, we are stubborn. We are very stubborn people. We are very stiff necked individuals. We will hear information. Information doesn't make people change. You know what I mean? You get the best information in the world, but information doesn't make you change. And people say knowledge is power, and it is. But learning has to be a superpower. And what I find is that a lot of people don't have the capacity, a strong thing to learn, and by extension, or we think by knowing that we've learning, we think if we acquire knowledge that we've learned, but we really don't. You know, what I mean, we learn the very thing, but we don't change. Bishop Mark for years, he would talk about applying God's words to your life. We hear it, we write notes in our books, we highlight our Bible, we dance around the church, we cry and we get touched and we become snotty, but we go back and do the same thing because we like this person. We don't like to change. So, yes, compatibility and chemistry is great, please. Don't get me wrong. As Bishop Mark said, a car is more than just the fuel. There's the transmission, there's the engine, there's spark plugs, there's shocks, there's wheels. And just in the car, I tell you, most people do not invest financially in their marriage. They invest in the wedding. They spend thousands of dollars in the wedding. But as far as the marriage is concerned, we want the mechanic come and fix the car for free. We want somebody come and give you some gas when we're going on the road. We want somebody give us a tire. You know what I mean? So we got four tires now matching. You know what I mean? So the car wobbly and weird and all types of things. So my thing, yes, and I do agree that the compatibility chemistry, the last thing you had left, we had talked about something called choice. Many of us have not we don't choose to go against our emotions. Right? So you may talk about the love language and all those things, but what love language? Let's say physical touch is very low for me, and yes, my wife has a high thing for physical touch. However, I mean, let's say they raise or it makes me feel icky when somebody touches me, or walks my skin when somebody touches me. Am I willing to feel icky and uncomfortable and hot when somebody touches me? Because sometimes it's not just your mind, sometimes it's physical, right? So to be the in that position and she hugging me and like she's on it here hot, I get here watching this movie, da 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 da. So most of them not actually feel my separation, and then she say, you know what, don't bother. She go over to the other side of the room. So that's my thing with chemistry and compatibility. It is very very good, but for me, I find that choice is something that actually overrides so much of this, and I look forward to maybe getting things like that.
I'm glad you said that because choice, because I think that it's always there's always a level of discomfort in a relationship, whether it's a work relationship, whether it's a relationship between children. There's always a level of discomfort, a level of compromise. You're going to have to sometimes accept on this level, sometimes, not accept on another level. And I think that when it comes to this whole chemistry and compatibility thing, we first have to look at, first identify what I don't like, what I will like. And sometimes, as Minister Sinclair says, if you are with a person whose love language is physical touch, and they want to pass and run, touch your shoulder, run their hand across your bald head, like Pastor Kathy does with Bishop Mark, and you don't like that, there's sometimes you got to say, you know what, I'm going to have to sometimes, just let it be, rather than sometimes, sometimes you only feeding your own comfort and forgetting about your other spouse. I think that as a question was asked to me, is it that sometimes we become so comfortable that we take each other for granted? So because I know that I'm in a relationship and I know that we're not going to get divorced, we've got children, we've invested in a house, even though our relationship has come to the point where we are almost friend like, we've come to say, you know what, we're living in the same house, we're fine with this. We might sleep in the same bed, but we don't touch each other in the same bed. We are, or we sleep in the same house but different bedrooms, so we're comfortable with it. You know that when it comes to cooking, she's going to leave your food there. When she leaves your food there, you are fine with it. You'll know you'll wash your plate after. There's no sort of conversation because you're eating at the table alone and she's probably in the bedroom, or she's sitting at the table alone and you are in front of the television. So I think because of this, it contributes to the fact that people no longer want to invest in bettering your relationship. Whereas you see persons as they get older and they've reached the chemistry level might not be on the level where, as Pastor Bynoe said, the explosive sex anymore, but they find other ways to create that intimacy and that compatibility and even keep the chemistry alive. They probably go on walks. They decide, you know what, we're going to take a drive. We're going to get on the bus and take a little picnic, but I find we do not want to extend ourselves or go outside of our comfort zone to keep the flame still going. So sometimes when you see couples, especially coming out of the church, there is almost it's almost boring sometimes because we go to church on Sundays, we come back home. Maybe if one body's still at work, one body's at home. There's no sort of fire or spark there because they've allowed it to just function at this level. If that's the way I can explain it. Bishop Mark,
I
go
want
ahead.
to jump. I want to jump in quick. I want to
Go
jump
ahead,
in
sis.
quickly. Um, yeah, when he thinks, for instance, we might think a marriage that's boring. Yeah, but there's some people that they like boring. Yeah, there's some people that marriage is a good marriage. It doesn't look for the extrovert, like this big exciting thing. And there are couples that I've met where I would say it looks boring, but they work very, very well because the compatibility is great. You know what I mean? They know that they like sex once a month. They know that they can sit in a space together and be not necessarily communicating at a high level. So it all depends on what we talk about bending. And let's say a person is very extroverted and a person is not as extroverted. Some days that extroverted person has to come down, you know. So that other person can't tolerate the amount of energy, the amount of touching and stuff like that. So some of that person has to come down, and that's when I teach people like, some of you bring too much energy into the space, right? And for an introvert, sometimes just having that big I personality coming space, and the extrovert is almost sucking them to death. You know what I mean? And normally would be telling the introvert, you know what, you need to step up. Like all depends on a couple of things. And so you gotta tell the extrovert, you gotta come down a little bit. Stop touching so regular. Wait till that person come home and they detox first. You know how far it's an hour. Let him climatize, and then you can approach them. So there are different ways to skin to skin the cat. But the last thing I want to jump in here, with Pastor Bishop Mark, because men on Monday. And one of the things that I see is like a lot of people say, why do this, do this. I'm saying for a lot of men, where confusion kicks in. I'm not saying you shouldn't. But let me talk about the same intimacy, compatibility, and chemistry. I'm not saying all cases because they're unhealthy in all spaces. But for a lot of things, we talk about compromising, where many people will say more often of women, when it comes to intimacy, take me out first, let's get a massage, buy me some flowers, da da da. That sparks the interest to be intimate. But here's the challenge, and I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm saying here's the challenge. When it comes to children, the children are not giving you massages, they're not giving you flowers, they're not taking you to dinner, whatever. But yet there's still this energy towards the children. You know what I mean? At work, they're not buying you flowers, taking you to lunch, and all those things, but still the energy towards that. So if a lot of men, not saying that we shouldn't do it, fine. But it is, how is it that way you want to be with me? I'm here. But yet I gotta do these other things. It really is, do you want to be with me? Because realistically, if I'm here, but I got to do all these other things, then it can't be me that excite you. And then so many times where men could have a chance, we talk about intimacy and compatibility. I'm not saying all cases, but we find that there's the thing that you got to do these things because I just can't go and be intimate like that. I need to get this jump start. Then the men are saying, well, it can't be me then because why you need to jumpstart? Right? So there are conversations to be had. Bishop Mark says this in his book, and he says it all the time. The culture that we come from, there's another C that we need to look at. The culture that we come from impact this compatibility and this chemistry. And that is where we get into even deeper waters. And if Bishop Mark will touch on that.
Yeah, well, you said quite a bit and correctly so, in terms of how the challenges that you have, and that is why I always say you have to look maintenance. You have look. You're right to get rid of some people. They're comfortable with where they're at. I think you should take them with the scenario. There's some people who are quite comfortable with wifey in the room and they're eating by themselves and that kind of thing. But I think that they're in the minority. A lot of times you see situations like that is where people have gone to the point where they've given up. So they said to themselves, look, it don't make sense fighting this, if that's how he is and that's how I am, we will maintain this marriage and just exist, right? But if you want the best out of your relationship, then it means that you have to realize that it is maintenance. As I said, I've been married. You think that because me and my wife have been married for 29 years, that we don't have issues? That we don't have things that still over the years, although they're not as overbearing as before, they're still there. But as I said in an earlier program, one of the things that I've come to realize is that you cannot get 100% from no human being in the world. And I think that is where a lot of marriages fall down, because anytime you see people are just existing, it means that during the process of their journey, they got frustrated with not being able to get what they want, not being able maybe to give what the other person wants. And even as Clair said there, the extrovert has to come down, the introvert has to push up a little bit. And so what that requires is to make choices that are for the benefit of the relationship, not yourself. And as he used the word in culturalization, that he's in my book, is that because people have come with certain mindset, and let me tell you, there's certain things in people's culturalization that are so ingrained, are so deep. 20 years later in the marriage, they still got issues with self-esteem. 20 years later in the marriage, they still got issues with a husband telling them something, because when they look back, they're made up in their mind they will not be subservient as their mother was, and so on. So even although we talk about work and time and all of that, then you have to come back to another word that was used here this morning, choice. You have to make a choice to make the marriage work. For example, there are things that my wife still do that I wish she wouldn't do. But what have I done? I've decided to accentuate the positives. And she was totally saying about me too. So I am not here saying that my wife is all this thing and I'm the greatest person ever. But what we do is that we always keep, somebody mentioned again, communication open. So if I have an issue, I don't shout at her, you the idiot, I will slap it. No, I say to her, honey, I really don't like this. I don't say it's so sweet. But at the end of the day, after I see she gets upset, I will go back there and say, oh, you're vexed with me, Don't be vexed with the messenger. See if you get the message, and if I was a little too loud or too aggressive, I apologize. Can't kill me to do that. But you know how many people will do that? There's some men, they say sorry if you beg them. And I say this before an apology. There's some men feel they're gonna be right all the time. Some ladies the same way, they get very stubborn and they shut down movementations, talk to you for all kinds of things. Thankfully, and again, as we were talking about having God in the center of our relationship, thankfully, I have a church, a girl that really, 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 really love the Lord. And that has been very helpful to me and so on. But everybody doesn't have that. People have people going to church. And when these people who are doing the thing called marriage, you would not believe that the same mouth that saying hallelujah, thank you, Jesus, were coming out of it in terms of trying to get their way or trying to get somebody to listen. And a lot of times people all about themselves. So they will say, my husband won't listen, but if them talking all the time, them ain't listening either. You understand? So that is where we are at, where these things are. And so that is why we were saying earlier, you must do your maintenance. You must sometimes take a little time out and think, if for example you realize that you were doing day at night and you're not doing it anymore, no, we have to go and do a little day at night. Come. Let me get back this thing. Let us keep working at it. And that's what we got to do. Maintenance and make it the choices, not necessarily for yourself, but for the overall, should I say, a comfort of the marriage relationship.
Again, I said it's that when you say that, it's for people to come to that point where they say, you know what, we got to do this. Because as Minister St. Clair said, there are some people who are compatible with their marriage, at that stage, maybe whatever they determine as their adequate supply of intimacy when the month
they might not be happy, but they're comfortable. You see, they may not be happy, but they're comfortable.
And then there's and that generally happens, you find, with an older generation, who says, this is where we're at. So we're fine with this. Then you might find maybe a younger couple who might say, you know what, maybe I just got settled for this because this is what we've come to. But it's the realization to say, you know what, we can become better at this relationship. So as we share this morning, I hope that many understand that at what level you are, and we shared a matrix a little earlier, at whatever level you are at, it is the understanding that there's always a place for improvement. There's always a place for improvement. But it's, to come to the mindset, do we really need to improve? Or should we just be fine with this? Can they have that hard conversation? That's the next question. Can I say to my spouse, I really wish that you'd sit on the table with me. Why do I need to sit on the table with you? If that's the response they're going to get, how can someone have a tough conversation about something like that, where they can change, as we've been looking at this matrix, where they can change the fact that they've got low chemistry and low compatibility to become improved in a particular area, whether they want to reach high chemistry and high compatibility. How can they have that hard conversation? How do we start that conversation? That's an interesting one this morning. How do we start it? Nobody's going to jump in there. Sinclair, go ahead.
You find somebody else.
No, I think
I just joking.
gonna jump in there and really tackle the issue.
I really joking there. Um, che- chemistry is honestly chemistry to me is just very fickle, in a sense. I'm not saying it's not important, but you either have the chemistry, or you don't. You know what I mean? You can't. Um, yeah, you can't just like, for instance, you like tall, dark, and handsome, or you don't. You understand? Because the gay short and wide, they it is what it is. But you can actually learn to like the person. You can't. They nothing you can do. Can't stretch him. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing with the girl. You know what I mean? You like a dark skinned girl and she red. I'm like, they ain't could do it. They ain't can put what burner. Yeah, they nothing you could do there. There's some things that and that's what happens. Some people actually fall in love because of trauma, and that is what happened. They didn't get married quickly because they want legal sex. So we go to the Christian community, and as Bishop Bynoe said it also, is that whole that whole chemistry thing fades in 2 years for the most part. So everybody get excited, you know what I mean? And 2 years, poof, and the dust settles, and you look at the person like, what did they just do? All right. So now you now have to work at the marriage. So yes, it's good if you have that chemistry and it continues, and God bless you. Yeah, for the most part. And nobody's saying you can have 100%, but we change. I don't think that our wives don't have to kind of work out also. Like, yeah, I wish my husband has some abs, but he doesn't. You know what I mean? So, maybe she dreams about abs or something. I don't know what they do. Maybe boy, you know what I mean? I had abs when my wife first seen me. Fine, if you could find them, though, God bless her. But I'm saying, you know what I mean? We all have to have a level of maturity in this. You know what I mean? Chemistry will change, and you can actually find some other things that you can get excited about. The person on the inside, that's what mature. That's what some you find men talk about the person on the inside. You know what I mean? Some of our wives put on weight, but there's still something sexy about her. We still find something beautiful on the inside. So the chemistry is not just the physical, right? Yeah. So if you're a breast person, thank God she has breast. But suppose she doesn't have breast anymore. You know what I mean? There's a person on the inside, right? And that's where the chemistry kicks in because that. And I can tell you for a lot of men, you could be pretty, you could got hips, lips, or fingertips, but you see that person inside ugly, chemistry done. We dog dead. I mean, you could put on all the lingerie, you could bring a pool in that bedroom. We not interested. So I'm telling you, for guys, as much people think that we are all this physical, and we are, but we move beyond physical to that person on the inside. We will have sex with a stranger first, than with an ugly person that we love. You know what I mean? So the chemistry and that compatibility shifts a little bit, and that's what could be confusing for a lot of women. Um, why we operate the way we do, because we're different to women. But that's the chemistry. So in order to build that, the question really is, what are some of the things that, if we've come to that place, if we had it before, what are some of the things, as Bishop Mark said, that has caused a problem, that has an issue, that has been spoken about, but has not been touched, or I have not seen change, I've not seen effort, or I don't feel respected, or I don't feel, how you're approaching me or you're hearing me. That can build back chemistry in a second. And I watch it happen all the time in my class, where people for the first time feel they're being heard. Men actually feel like you're no hearing me for the first time. All of a sudden, the explosive sex starts back. You know what I mean? And I'm serious about that. That's what chemistry looks like. And then there are things like compatibility, and most often, some people are who they are. We just got to know how to fit them together. Because a guy may be turned off because the wife is low on the financial intimacy. She spends money, she loses money, she don't know where money goes. And the guy, that is important for him. That is a high intimacy level. And when she gets paid, it's like Christmas. You know what I mean? He's turned off. Yeah. So therefore we gotta fix that. Where the intimacy can come in space, where she could probably have a budget. And here's $2, sweetheart. Have fun with that. By the other part, you know what I mean, you control over here. And all of a sudden that intimacy is fixed. So that is my suggestion as far as chemistry and compatibility.
Yeah, but I think Sinclair, you're right there. But some of the other things, even although we talk about the compatibility, yeah, that will stay. But the whole chemistry thing is very important. I'll give you an example. I was dealing with a couple, and they were always having these various challenges and so on. And one of the things that the husband said, he said, "Look, I don't mind whatever other things happen with us, but there are two things that seem to lick me up in my way. First, when she has a car. If you go into her car, I gotta go and clean it. Go, the car stink. I mean, she got the gym, she got all everything in the car like a dump stink. And he was upset about that because he realized, well, she's not taking care of it. And then he says when he comes home, she hear all frazzled out. She ain't bed yet for the day, and her excuse is, "Oh, the children." And thing. But he's saying, "But all I want, I don't even that she just bed. She maybe just not by here and one, but when he come, she just frazzle out. She just, and she listened, and to cut a long story short, she went and she did. And I haven't seen enough for about a year or so, and they're back. Just these two things, right? Yeah, when we recording, you did mistakes. You would all of a sudden the children come, and all of a sudden you keeping yourself any all out. And then look at the man, right? Had the man upset every time he wanted to deal with other aspects. He just seeing this monster before him. But she was willing to listen to the counseling. And I remember when they came back a couple of months, I kept working with it. And I would also, even when I see him, I say everything good. He said, "Mark, she keeping the hair thing nice. Thank you, Jesus." And that made the whole relationship better. I say, Claire, say, once you look at these things and you're willing to take the choice that I want this marriage to work, I can do, because it helped her too. And now they've cleaned the car together. He makes a lot of fun now about how nice the hair is, and all this. If she started slacking off, you say, "You can call Pastor Mark for it," right? And that's how it has worked. So you're right. You see, you have to be flexible, make this thing, and let the love that you have for the person, right, drive you. So sometimes might give up a little of your space, because I always say, if you're willing to give, let you. It's a principle. You give out, you can get back, because most time when you're giving to persons, you're making them feel good. They're appreciating what you're doing. Unless the criminal, unless they're really selfish, you can get back. Whether it might be horizontal or vertical. I leave that there.
Nothing to add, Pastor Edison Bynoe?
Man, look, I hear listening. I hear taking it all in. I hear taking my notes. I in the background, I typing away. I typing
Contribute to
away.
your
I trying to,
exclusiveness.
yeah. I trying to get all this wonderful information that you guys talking
Bishop
about.
Mark, he going up for me because he started with explosive sex and he might have given the tips at all. He might hold up for the brother.
But man, Sinclair, I know you got more tips than I possibly will have. What I should be coming to
When
you.
you talk with
You got all
explosiveness,
these
it might not be
tips.
good.
I know
Every
Bishop
Monday,
Mark got
every
a little ahead of me in terms of marriage, so I know he
but we
got
doing
some
the explosive,
tips
so
there.
we say good, we say great, but you say explosive, you use it
Yeah,
right.
but well, those were the words that
So me and
I
Bishop Mark just
found.
here
Those were the
waiting
words
for
that
them
I
tips,
found. So don't read too much into them. Don't read too much into that. I learning like you. I learning like you. And so whatever wisdom you accumulate, you could share with everybody else. Yeah. But no, in life, right? Generally, in life, we tend to get comfortable in all areas. We tend to get comfortable in work. We come to get we become comfortable with the vehicle, we become comfortable with the children. So it is not unusual that we become comfortable in marriage. We even become comfortable in our relationship with God. Yeah, that's where we start to have ritual and routine and religion and that kind of thing. So we have to come to a place where we understand what makes for a good and healthy marriage, and that will require not comparing our marriage to other people's marriage, but it will require looking at different aspects, looking at different components of marriage. Yeah, understanding communication, understanding sexual intimacy, understanding that financial intimacy. What we need are our tools and principles, but as Minister Sinclair pointed out, if there is no willingness, if there's no commitment to change, if there's no commitment to make the investment, no commitment to put in the effort, then the marriage isn't going to go anywhere. Yeah. In business, the Japanese have this concept of kaizen. They make continuous improvement. That's the basis of total quality management. You look for ways that you can improve, that you can make things better. If you're comfortable, you are looking for no place to improve. You are settled. When you become settled, the relationship becomes mundane, boring, and predictable. When you continue to learn, continue to grow closer in intimacy with God, in learning things about like Men on Monday, reading different books, and then you take it from being knowledge now, yeah, into learning. Give me one thing that I can apply. So from this program, what is one thing that you have learned from this program that you can apply? And asking you to look for 5 things or 10 things and then look to apply. But what's one thing? Yeah, and Bishop Mark kept it real. I mean, up to the other day, my wife and I we had an argument, and she, she blocked me. Not in that blocked me completely, but I mean, for a little while, we weren't talking. We kind of walking out, and so I went. I got her some lunch and stuff. I plugged her a little bit and stuff, and then she started talking back to me real good. Why? Because effort is required. We are real men. We get conflict. Sometimes we say something we don't say it the right way. We rough, might be a little aggressive or grumpy or whatever, a little miserable and thing. A little, as Bishop Mark said, a little detail oriented and stuff, and we might create offense. Now we can choose a marriage to hold on to the offense, or we can say, my love, let me talk about this, let me reason together, let me deal with it. And that is what makes marriage work, when we're willing to invest the effort. Conflicts will come, disappointments will come, discouragements will come, things outside of the marriage will happen. Yeah, and all of those things on the external will have an impact. I have to determine if I am going to do something to make the marriage better, or if I can just throw my hands up in the air and say, man, look, I'm done with this. Yeah. So a lot of marriages, they fail prematurely because people are not willing to invest the effort. They spend a lot of money on the wedding, but when it comes to say, all right, let me spend a little money with a counselor to see how we can improve the marriage or get it back on track, people didn't want to spend that money, but they spend thousands upon the wedding day and invite everybody to come, as many people as they could invite to come to the wedding, and then in 2 years marriage break up. No, if you invest that level of effort and into the wedding and money, then invest in the continuation of the marriage. Don't give up because you're not willing to make the investment. Yeah, so I can stop there and turn back over.
Let me just add my 2 cents before we close this morning. I just want to remind you also we have a new YouTube channel. Please, I'll share that video with you before we go. But I just want to slip that in there before I forgot. Just as Pastor Edison Bynoe said, take whatever tips you have from our show today for you. We've shared quite a bit of information from starting in our Teach Me to Love series. We started talking about love languages. And I know sometimes people think it's a joke and almost sometimes taboo, but it's really an exploration of you learning about you. And it's only after, I remember years, it was last year when we really explored this with Dr. Smalley. We did it before when we talked about love languages. I'm sure that after conducting the test, people were more aware of just who they are and what they liked and what they did not like. And they probably learned about themselves. Now that we've looked at the chemistry versus compatibility element, for those of you who are in relationships, those who are looking to be in relationships, they're probably learning, you know what? I didn't know this. Our relationship is having a deficit in this area. And because of that, you're better able to improve your marriage. It is better to improve your marriage than to pay for a divorce. Just telling you that. It is better to improve your marriage than to pay for a divorce. A divorce is quite expensive, and not only financially, but emotionally and spiritually. Take it from me, I've been there. So it's better to have worked at your marriage rather than have to be on the other end of it, of the divorce end, which can be very, very costly for both parties. So for those of you who've shared with us this morning over the last couple of weeks, take what will work for you in your marriage, and both parties have to work. I often say sometimes a woman might be listening and she might say to her husband, listen to me on Monday. He might not listen. Or he might be listening and he might say to his wife, listen, and she might not listen. I will encourage you to call any of our gentlemen here. If you feel free, you're on our Facebook page right now, on our YouTube channel, send us a message and I'll have one of our counselors here, Bishop Mark, Pastor Bynoe, Minister Sinclair, contact you so that you can better your marriage. And as Jason Sargent is here saying, especially if children are involved, it is a very costly journey, and so costly that sometimes you'll be paying for it. You might be divorced in 2010, but you're still paying for it down in 2022. So I'm just saying to you that let's build Let's build on our marriages. And that's not only that, show the enemy that he can't win. Show the enemy that he cannot win. Do not let that one little issue grow into a mammoth issue and you're not dealing with it. So call any of the gentlemen here, call a counselor, sit down, have a conversation, speak with your pastor, better your marriage. See how you can grow from a place where you just come home. And I hope the women heard this morning when Bishop Mark said, no, I do not believe in be if you're home, still have yourself looking presentable. I can tell you that. I still believe in having yourself look presentable. I'm not saying you're gonna walk around in your earrings and your jewelry and everything and makeup, but I still believe have
Prepare the
yourself looking
parlor.
presentable. Say that again.
Prepare the
We didn't hear
parlor.
you. Yes, as I say, prepare the parlor. I do not think that you should be, you're not going to be, but still have showered and present yourself, because it's not only about you, but it's also about your partner. And I think we need to understand that both for both parties, because a man can be home all day to having not showered, walking around in holy boxers and all sorts of stuff too, and thinking that women are supposed to be intrigued by that. So
Yeah,
it is
we gotta stop
also,
that foolishness. Yes, I with you. You get me full points on that one. Man, stop that nonsense.
yeah, so it's
What man is
also,
dressed? Every man was dressing part of wait, man, we be
was that
dressing.
you said, Sinclair? Say it again. That what?
I try to figure out every man was dressing parlor. I trying to figure out what we gotta tell the man dress. If not dressing
Oh,
parlor, I think dressing
oh, you
bar.
can't tell if it's
Dress
the
the
parlor.
bar, man. Dress the bar. dress the
Just the bar.
dress the bar. Do something. Yeah, I been doing that seriously. We got so much men doing this nonsense. Like the girl gonna find something attractive. I didn't say you gotta got the abs, but smell good. Do something. You know what I
Get
mean?
haircut and stuff
Like,
too, you know.
Marissa, I often say that
oh,
some of the
roll
men
on. Do
pregnant with
something.
the anointing. Some of the men pregnant with the anointing, man.
Like, I feel it.
Yeah.
I feel
So
attacked.
it is true. So it's not only about women doing it too, but also for the men to understand they also have to present themselves. No woman wants to go with a man going out in public and he has on holy shirts, shirts with holes in them,
Yeah,
and
I
and,
with
and
you on
thinking
that.
that's acceptable.
I can
You
touch
know.
this quickly because I know we've over time, but they got too many
Mm.
people got this nonsense. They don't know where people get these narratives from. If they don't like me when they dirty, you can't like me when they clean. No, stop the nastiness. Like seriously, that ain't even the Holy Spirit, nothing. Go on bed. Like stop it. You know what I mean? You're coming to the girl workplace and looking like junk. Like stop it. You know what I mean? Is your wife and you come there, you come in the office, she there, but and you come there looking like foolishness. Yeah, you may drop off the food, but look nice. So that means that is your husband. But he look nice, dress the best. You know what I mean? And look, you don't normally wear the nice shoes and stuff, but you're going by the girl workplace, dress nice. You're just
Mm.
passing through and your pants dropping off. And no, we gotta stop that. I with you on that. I can jump on me for
Yeah.
that one. Holy
So
boxers, no. Stop
not in
looking
the
like
house.
ignorant.
No,
And
not in the house.
find a nice underwear for your bedroom too.
Maybe that's the series coming up for the men. But I believe too that it goes both ways. Women, prepare yourself, prepare the parlor. I joke with this man. I had I heard a gentleman talk about it sometime back at a joke, and it stuck with me. Prepare the parlor, and the same thing goes also for the men. You take care of yourself too, because we both have to be appealing to each other. That's where the chemistry stays alive, and don't take each other for granted. We take if COVID hasn't taught us that, I don't know what will. Do not take each other for granted. Like Pastor Edison Bynoe, he took some lunch, man, and he changed the situation. Do what you need to do to change the situation, women and men also. But we've come
Uh,
to the end of our show. Go
yeah,
ahead, Pastor.
Marissa, quickly, Anita asked an important question. If the pastor going through the same thing, how can he help? And that's very true. If the pastor is not in that place to be able to, if his marriage is a wreck, mash up, destroyed, then he certainly can't counsel people through that. Yeah, and that's where you have to go to someone on the outside.
What is this?
Madison, you gotta stop it. Madison. There's another thing men do. Madison, I tell you, you gotta
Madison,
stop it.
get the cream, get the cream.
You see that foolishness? The lot of people do that foolishness and on top what they do with testing the person. I was telling my wife this. No, seriously, I tell my wife this. I was horrible. I thank God for Jesus. I'm telling you, if I was going out with you, before I had a car, I was younger. I used to meet you one place, and that was Fairchild Street Bus Terminal. And I used to go by the bank by the other side of it. I used to get there early. If you meet for two, I there for at one. And if you dress at nonsense, I used to go home. I'm sorry. I ain't walking around looking bummy. I'm sorry to go home. Right? You might test the person like person bounce boss. So don't, as you said, don't test him. You might lose a
Not
good
with,
girl.
not with, not with white feet. Not with white feet.
No, wait.
Not with white feet.
And if she,
Nah.
honestly, you might lost a good girl. Thank God she still keep you, but we lost a good girl without white feet thing, buddy. Don't do that.
Don't do it to me because you won't see me. I can tell you that for sure.
I'm not like word.
No.
I 28 years now. You got a good one, buddy. Don't do it more, Madison.
All right. So I want to say thanks to all of you for joining us today. From next week, we'll be streaming live on our new YouTube channel, Unifying Families Worldwide. So look for that channel. Go to YouTube right now. Unifying Families Worldwide. That's our new YouTube channel. We will be streaming there. So wherever those of you who are with us on our channel this morning, we will no longer be streaming on that channel from next Monday. But next Monday, we've got a great series coming up. I posed it to the men. We're going to look at bettering men. Men are going to talk all about themselves. We've been talking about relationships and building yourself in relationships. But coming out of Pastor Bynoe's book, the 8 success factors, we're going to incorporate that into some stuff that we're looking at the next coming week about men, focusing on men. So the show is about men and dealing directly with men, as we always have, sometimes, but it's all about men and how they can better themselves. And we're going to be looking at that in the next coming weeks right here on our show, Men on Monday. Thank you so much for joining us. To all of you, from Ann to Jason to Madison, wherever you are, hit that like button. It's important for us to start to grow our presentations, to grow our live stream. So hit that like button and share it. Hit it and like it and share also what we're doing here on Men on Monday, Unifying Families. And of course, we're back getting ready to bring Women on Wednesday back on stream also. It's not as easy, especially when you have children to get to school and maneuvering here and there. So we're trying to work some things around to be able to present to you Women on Wednesday once again. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Minister Sinclair Brown, Pastor Edison Bynoe, Bishop Mark. Thanks to all of you. And I want to say thanks to your wives too for, allowing you to be able to share with us on our shows on Monday mornings. Thank you so much for being with us on our show today, Men on Monday. Don't forget to check out Bishop Edison Bynoe and his book. Make sure you purchase that book. Purchasing that book will help you in our next couple of shows, the 8 success factors for a healthy life. Bishop Edison Bynoe having compiled that book. Check it out. And also Healthy Cottage, making sure you take care of your body. God bless you. Have a great one. That has been today's show of Men on Monday. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I hope all is well with you. Due to some unforeseen circumstances, we want you to follow us on our new channel, Unifying Families Worldwide. Be sure to follow us and click that notification bell to stay tuned for all of our upcoming videos. We've got great things in store for you. So follow us at our new channel, Unifying